Summer is here, and everything you need for adventure is waiting at shockshop.us. Gear up with camping essentials, stylish bathing suits for fun in the sun, reliable generators for every outdoor trip, kayaks, dinghies, and water toys for non-stop excitement. From backyard fun to lakeside escapes, shackshop.us has it all. Shop the summer sale now and save big at shackshop.us.
Missing Across Borders, the continuing search for Nancy Guthrie. Introduction. For months, investigators, family members, volunteers, and concerned members of the public have been searching for answers in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, an 84-year-old Arizona woman whose sudden vanishing has become one of the most closely followed missing person cases of the year. What began as a local search effort in Tucson has gradually expanded into a complex investigation involving multiple law enforcement agencies, volunteer organizations, and thousands of people following developments from across the country. Now, a new lead originating in Mexico has added another chapter to an already complicated mystery. Volunteer searchers operating south of the United States border say they received anonymous information suggesting Nancy Guthrie may have been buried in an area near Nogales. The tip prompted multiple searches in remote terrain, raising fresh questions while providing few concrete answers. Despite extensive efforts, authorities have not announced evidence confirming the anonymous claim. Yet the development demonstrates how missing person investigations often evolve, following every lead, no matter how uncertain, in the hope that one piece of information may finally provide clarity. Tonight, we examine the timeline of Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, the latest developments involving volunteer search groups, the challenges investigators face, and the many questions that remain unanswered. The night everything changed. According to publicly released information, Nancy Guthrie was last known to be at her Tucson area residence during the evening hours of January 31st. At first glance, there appeared to be nothing unusual about the evening. No emergency calls were reported. No immediate signs of distress were publicly disclosed. Yet by the following day, concerns began to grow when family members and friends realized something was wrong. Nancy reportedly failed to participate in a planned virtual church gathering, an event that those close to her say was part of her normal routine. When an elderly individual suddenly breaks from established habits, family members often recognize it as a potential warning sign. That concern quickly escalated into action. A missing person report was filed, launching what would become a lengthy and highly publicized investigation. Early search efforts. In the first days following Nancy's disappearance, law enforcement agencies focused heavily on the immediate area surrounding her home. Investigators typically begin by examining nearby locations, reviewing surveillance footage, interviewing neighbors, and attempting to establish a detailed timeline of a missing person's final known movements. Search teams often work under the assumption that the earliest hours are among the most critical. Ground searches, neighborhood canvassing efforts, and evidence collection became priorities. At the same time, detectives began reviewing digital information, communications, and any available clues that might explain where Nancy went after she was last seen. As days turned into weeks, however, the investigation became increasingly difficult. No confirmed sightings emerged, no clear explanation surfaced, and no publicly identified suspect was named. The involvement of federal authorities. As the case continued, federal investigators joined the effort. The participation of federal agencies in missing person investigations can provide additional resources, specialized expertise, and expanded investigative capabilities. When a disappearance remains unresolved for an extended period, authorities frequently widen the scope of their inquiries. This can include reviewing interstate travel possibilities, analyzing digital evidence, coordinating with other jurisdictions, and following tips from across the country. The addition of federal resources often signals that investigators are committed to pursuing every possible avenue. Yet despite those expanded efforts, the central question remained unchanged. What happened to Nancy Guthrie? A family waiting for answers. One of the most difficult aspects of any missing person investigation is the uncertainty experienced by loved ones. Families often find themselves trapped between hope and fear. Every phone call could bring important news. Every reported sighting could represent a breakthrough. Every tip might finally provide the answer they have been seeking. At the same time, families must continue living day to day while confronting an absence that remains unexplained. Public statements made throughout the investigation have reflected the emotional toll that such uncertainty creates. Friends, relatives, and supporters have repeatedly expressed hope that Nancy will be found and that investigators will eventually uncover the truth. The power of volunteer search organizations. While law enforcement agencies conduct official investigations, volunteer groups often play a significant role in searching for missing individuals. Across both the United States and Mexico, citizen-led organizations frequently dedicate countless hours to locating missing persons and identifying unknown remains. These groups often receive tips directly from members of the public. Sometimes those tips lead nowhere. Occasionally, they reveal important information, and in rare cases, they can become major breakthroughs. Volunteer searchers frequently operate in challenging environments, including deserts, remote valleys, abandoned properties, and rugged terrain that can be difficult to access. Their work is physically demanding and emotionally exhausting. Yet many continue because they believe every family deserves answers. The anonymous tip months after Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. A volunteer organization based in northern Mexico reported receiving anonymous information concerning the case. According to statements released publicly, the tip suggested Nancy may have been buried in an area near Nogales on the Mexican side of the border. The location reportedly involved terrain where volunteer search groups have previously conducted recovery operations. The information immediately attracted attention because of the area's history. Search teams working in the region have previously located numerous burial sites and human remains connected to unrelated investigations. Because of that history, volunteers considered the information significant enough to warrant additional searches. However, an anonymous tip alone does not establish facts. Investigators must verify claims through evidence. That process can be difficult, particularly when the source remains unidentified. Searching the area. Following receipt of the information, volunteer search teams reportedly conducted searches in the identified area. The terrain presented challenges familiar to many border region investigations. Remote landscapes, difficult access routes, environmental conditions, and large search zones can complicate efforts. Searchers carefully examine locations identified through the tip. The initial effort did not uncover evidence confirming the claim. Rather than ending the effort, however, volunteers continued reviewing information. Subsequent communications reportedly provided additional details, prompting another search operation. Once again, teams entered the field, hoping to discover evidence that could either confirm or disprove the information they had received. The result remained the same. No publicly announced evidence was found linking Nancy Guthrie to the area. Why investigators follow every lead to outsiders? It may seem unusual for authorities or volunteer groups to spend time pursuing information that ultimately proves inaccurate. But experienced investigators often emphasize that missing person cases require exhaustive follow-up. Even a tip that appears unlikely can contain elements of truth. Sometimes a small detail leads investigators toward entirely new information. Other times, eliminating a possibility is itself valuable because it narrows the field of inquiry. Each lead helps build a clearer picture of what may have happened. That is why agencies frequently evaluate information from anonymous callers, witnesses, digital submissions, and community members. Most leads do not solve a case, yet investigators never know which one eventually might. The challenge of cross-border investigations. When information crosses international boundaries, additional complications can arise. Jurisdictional issues, communication requirements, differing procedures, and geographic obstacles can all affect the pace of an investigation. Authorities on both sides of a border may need to coordinate information sharing. Search operations can require permits, logistical planning, and cooperation between multiple agencies. These realities make cross-border cases particularly challenging. Yet they also highlight the importance of collaboration. Whether information originates in Arizona, Sonora, or elsewhere, investigators share the same objective: determining the truth. Community response. The disappearance has generated significant public interest. Community members have organized awareness campaigns, shared information online, distributed missing person notices, and followed updates closely. In many missing person cases, public awareness plays a crucial role. Individuals who may not realize they possess important information sometimes come forward after seeing media coverage. Social media, news reports, and community outreach efforts help keep investigations visible long after initial headlines fade. Supporters of the family continue encouraging anyone with potentially relevant information to contact authorities. The unanswered questions. Despite months of investigation, numerous questions remain unresolved. What happened after Nancy was last seen? Did she leave voluntarily? Was she assisted by someone? Did an unexpected medical event occur? Is there evidence investigators have not yet released publicly? Could the anonymous tip eventually prove meaningful? Or is it simply another lead that will ultimately be ruled out? At this stage, authorities have not publicly provided definitive answers. That uncertainty is what continues to drive the investigation forward. Where the case stands today. As of now, the search for Nancy Guthrie remains active. Investigators continue evaluating information as it arrives. Volunteer groups remain engaged. Family members continue hoping for answers. And the public continues watching for developments. The recent searches in Mexico have not produced publicly announced evidence confirming the anonymous claims, but they demonstrate that efforts to locate Nancy have not stopped. Every lead is being considered, every possibility is being examined, and every search reflects a larger commitment shared by investigators, volunteers, and loved ones alike: finding the truth. Until that truth emerges, the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie remains an open mystery, one that continues to draw attention on both sides of the border, and one that countless people hope will eventually reach a resolution.